Alright, today we are going to be jumping back into the Bitcoin price chart, looking at some levels to the downside now that I have marked out on the chart, as well as covering the S&P, the dollar, and we'll finish off with some altcoins here to show you my thoughts on the markets overall. But before we do jump into the price action and my TA, I did want to cover some news. I normally don't cover any news on this channel whatsoever, but because it is regarding the Ethereum ETF and that is such a big catalyst coming up, I thought we'd talk about it since I know a lot of people are predicting July 2nd to be the launch date of that ETF, and I actually would prefer it be later rather than sooner, right? These ETFs have marked local tops on the chart, and I do believe that this Ethereum ETF could be a catalyst for exit liquidity for when the final top does come in for Bitcoin and we see that mass, retail euphoria in the altcoin market, all of that jazz. And what does this article say? Well, we can see here, this prediction for the July 2nd was just based off of some tweets regarding a filing that they had reported and comparing it with the Bitcoin ETF and, the dates between the filing and when the launch actually happened. So pure speculation, but certainly still a possibility. But what we do see here is, at the bottom of the article, they mentioned that Gary Gensler said that the Ethereum listing might not happen until September. And that is a real interesting month because that is also when the Fed is predicted to cut their rates. So if they do start their cutting cycle in September, along with this Ethereum ETF coming out, you are going to have a massive news catalyst for price continuing up, whereas we know from historically when these ETFs drop, they're not bullish, at least on the short term, they're not bullish, as well as we know historically when the Fed cuts, it's normally not bullish. At least after a hiking cycle like they've done, we are at levels in the interest rates that we haven't been since around 2008, and historically when they start these big cutting cycles, like in 2008, like in 2000, it marks not only a local top, but a macro top in markets. So September is a big month for me to be watching out for, especially if they do push out those ETFs to September. We want to be watching out, if we do see Bitcoin go into all-time highs. There's a lot of confluences and warning signs we could be looking out for in that month of September, depending on what price action does. So I wanted to go ahead and mention that to you guys, and I'll make sure to keep you updated when we do have an actual confirmation, because of course this is pure just speculation. And with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about these levels that I have put on the charts. You're probably noticing that I have a lot more levels than in last video. We had covered the Wyckoff upthrust after distribution level, as well as, sweep level and volume levels within here in my last video. I have also added another sweep level / liquidity level fair value gap. These are where more single prints are. So this is just another level to the upside to be looking out for. It's, 70,000 to 71, 72K up in that region there. We could find some resistance, but assuming we get up there, we're going to be building just more macro kind of poor highs within here. And at that point, we probably do squeeze up and grab it all. So that's that, but I wanted to focus more on these levels to the downside in this video. Some of these levels are more bearish, right? I had said if we go ahead and get below this 56K, that's kind of it for Bitcoin. We've lost all bullish structure at that point and it's game over. I do want to say not to panic sell if that does happen, because we do have big support here, right? So never sell into support, and there's always the case if there is a lot of liquidity down there and market makers want to grab it on a quick wick, that's not the end of the world. We could certainly wick down there, reclaim support, and fire off with haste and go up to make all-time highs, as long as we're holding this box within here, which is around 54.7 to 55.720. This is a sweep level from all the way back here on the charts where there's a lot of inefficiencies. So, grabbing both of these wicks within here is a possibility, but I will certainly say if that does happen, I'm going to be getting very cautious in the market, because it will be very likely at that point we would come up and start backtesting these highs as resistance, that sort of thing. So I really don't want to see price get down there, but it is support, just so you know, so no need to panic sell if we do get down there. We really have a lot of inefficiencies everywhere in here, so technically any of the single prints in this box could act as support. So yeah, this is probably going to fill very fast if we got down there, but it could also just be a quick wick or something like that. So just to take note of, right? Don't be panic selling if we do start, ripping down into this stuff. And then we also have this bigger liquidity level below $50,000. And at this point, yeah, like I said, this is not a bullish correction at that point, but this is still support. I know someone commented in my last video, so if you're saying we get $50,000, it's time to sell, and I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying if we get to $50,000, we're losing bullish structure and it's time to look to sell. So always be selling on retraces, not at support. So, we'd probably find support in here, and then we could go all the way up to $60,000. We could see a big retrace within here, and we could see altcoins going crazy right here. This could be a euphoric time in the markets once again, because I think a lot of people believe that this could be a bullish correction and they'll be looking to buy your bags on the retrace. So don't be panic selling into support. But what I would like to really focus on today is the more bullish support that we have within here. The levels I believe are actually going to hold. I don't think we should be getting down to those lower levels unless, structure is changing. And we do see currently right now we're finding support on these volume levels. What are these levels? Well, it's previous range value area lows within here. So if you were to just take a fixed range from our low down here to where we left the range up here at the highs, you'll see value area low comes in right there, as well as if you pull the bottom end range at like 56K, within here, this consolidation, you'll see value area high is marked out with this lower level within here, which is also sitting right at the 886, which has been acting as a big support level in the charts throughout, this kind of downtrend on Bitcoin here from the highs. So not only that, but we do have some fair value gaps. You can see within here on our 4-hour, but more hourly time frame is what I want to be looking at. You can see we have a couple fair value gaps right into this golden pocket, as well as underneath this wick, we do have that fair value gap as well. So this could act as big support. If we do grab that liquidity, I wouldn't be too scared because this is probably going to, sweep and then come back up. And I do actually expect us to kind of hunt down here a little bit lower, go test that golden pocket and whatnot, because if we do look on Trading Light, first off, our buyers are looking to scoop up price lower. You can see the majority of buyers are in between that 618 and 786 within there, which is a big buying zone for me, right? If I'm pulling swing low, swing high and entering in on a position, this is where I'm going to put my orders, and I potentially might even take a long within here with all these walls, but I'm going to wait to do that. I never put in blind limits. And if we do look at another workspace that I have within Trading Light here that I haven't actually shown on this channel, I don't believe, this is my TPO profile to find poor highs and poor lows. You can see on the TPO profile we have some poor lows within here. These wicks are not good. We need to sweep these wicks. So yeah, I definitely think we're going to go a little bit lower. We want to see, quicker, wick down here into the golden pocket or something like that. Just flush these lows, clean out these poor lows. These poor lows are represented by not having any single print tails on this profile. We'd want to see, single boxes at the wick lows, multiple of them like we had here at the highs, right? These are good highs within here on the daily session. So don't be too scared if we do continue to pull back here. This makes a lot of sense to do. And assuming we do get the bounce off that golden pocket, we talked about this in my last video. We want to see this macro golden pocket swing low, swing high get flipped back into support. We found resistance on it. Now we want to go ahead, get back over it, flip it into support, and that will confirm a much more bullish move to the upside, probably going for all-time highs at that point. So those are my thoughts on Bitcoin. Nothing's really changed too much from yesterday. So let's go ahead and talk about our traditional finance, starting off with the S&P. And we didn't talk about this yesterday, but we have just been kind of stuck within a range here. Still looking to see which direction this is going to break out. And I will say, if this does start breaking down, this is going to concern me. But we do have some more sweep levels to the downside within here. I talked about how I wanted this to get grabbed. We did in fact grab it, but we didn't really make the cleanest of lows within there, so we created another sweep level. So if this were to roll over and get grabbed, not the end of the world, but we do want to see this low get cleaned out and not just continue the trend of making poor lows and good highs, because we do have some decent highs within here. But I will say the fact that we're able to maintain price and testing this now value area high of the bottom end range as support, as well as clearly getting back within this top end range here on our volume profile, that's a really good sign to see, and we are seeing that strength in the S&P continue. So now we just want to see if we can actually break out to the upside and have continuation into price discovery once again, and of course Bitcoin will follow what the S&P does. So something to watch closely here. I'll keep you guys updated in the Discord if we do see any range breaks before I do upload my next video. But now let's talk about the DXY, the US dollar currency index, and discuss price action here, because clearly we have broken up to the upside out of this macro range that we were looking to kind of accept back within. I really wanted to see this get flipped into resistance and for us to hunt down here, and this would have been my signal for that big altcoin season, that sort of thing. We really had the chart shaping up quite amazing a couple months ago, but you can't predict everything, and the dollar did in fact break out, back test, and we're now coming up here to test the top side trend. You can see it's two different trends within here, kind of on the daily time frame marking out those highs, as well as the weekly time frame marking out where these wicks are ending up. So, pretty arbitrary trend right there. Nothing too specific that needs to get tapped or anything like that. We just want to kind of not make a higher high here. As long as we can hold the lower highs within here, that's all good, and I would expect to hunt back down to the 105 level, potentially, sweeping these lows, deviating to the downside. This is kind of what I expect now for the dollar. A nice deviation to the downside, and this is where your top comes in, maybe around September timeframe, like we talked about at the beginning of this video. And jumping in here to the hourly time frame, you can see we're getting right up next to this first trend that I had drawn, and we could already be finding that resistance. So I do think any moment now, especially just anytime during this week, we should see the dollar topping out and reversing from these trends, and that is where your Bitcoin and risk on assets are going to start firing off to the upside once we see a reversal in the dollar, because they are inversely correlated. But this is something to watch, because we do have this macro bullish structure. If we are to flip these trends into support, that would not be a good sign, and we want to make sure this is not happening. So we'll just continue to watch this closely, and again, I will update you guys in the Discord if I do see anything noteworthy when it comes to the dollar. Now let's talk about these altcoins, starting off with the Bitcoin dominance. We saw yesterday we had a trend to the upside, making a bear flag, and we did in fact break down from that bear flag, as could have been expected. We are seeing some altcoins run up today, like Caspa. So I do think the altcoin season has officially started. But of course, there's just so many coins out there nowadays that if you're not in the right place at the right times, you won't realize that the altcoin market in general is going to the upside, and there are really good gains to be made. And that's why it's so important to do your own research on altcoins and really find what stands out, because if they're not the best of the best, they're probably just going to continue to underperform Bitcoin. I don't believe it's going to be like 2021 this time, where just every coin on the planet moons and you don't even have to think about it. So I just wanted to get that out there. Also, we do see Bitcoin dominance coming up here on the short term, and this is also to be expected. We do have kind of like a double bottom being formed in here, so that's something to take note of, as well as, when we do break out of these channels, likely thing to happen is to come up and actually backtest that. So we'll see if this does in fact play out. Of course, it is Bitcoin dominance. This isn't, an actual pair or anything like that. Can't trade this. So do we have to go ahead and backtest a trend like this? Probably not, right? Anything could happen here. We could just roll over immediately, or we could go break out to the upside and this double bottom could play out. So once again, I'll update you guys in the Discord depending on what this does. But if I had to guess, I would say, yeah, we probably just go backtest that and then continue the trend downwards, because clearly on our longer term time frames, if we do jump out here to the daily, we do see trend is clearly looking like it is reversing, and we're at least going to go test the bottom side of this macro downtrend from all the way in 2017. And historically, when you do break this to the downside and start hunting to these range lows, as we've discussed a lot, this is your altcoin season. So let's see if we can get that to play out here on the Bitcoin dominance. And with that being said, if you do have any questions about anything I talked about in this video, or just want to join the community for this channel, the link to that Discord I was talking about throughout the video is in the description down below. And also down there, you will find a link to a limited time BingX futures event that I'm hosting right now. So make sure to go sign up using my link and go check that out if you do want some awesome rewards on an awesome exchange. And with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.